Do you want to be healthier, yet you just don't know what to do? All these shows telling you this and that, but nothing seems to work. Well, listen close. Golden State Media Concepts has got something great for you. The Health and Wellness Podcast dedicated to workout trends, healthy eating habits, diet, and everything about healthy living. Join us in our banters as we help you not just live life to the fullest, but live it to the healthiest.
Thank you for tuning in to the GSMC Health and Wellness Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Alex. Today, I want to talk to you guys about minerals. We tend to throw around terms like vitamins and minerals in a shared context, but I find that we really only tend to have separate conversations about the vitamins. So, instead of focusing on that today, we're going to talk about the minerals. So when it comes to minerals, what does that mean for your body? Like iron and quartz are minerals, but we only tend to take iron supplements when we don't take quartz supplements per se. But minerals can be a couple different things. Small amounts of certain types, like iron, are found in your food. You can get it in red meat like beef and get a really good source of iron from that. And just like you can get it from animal products, you can also get it from plants. So vitamins and minerals are both really necessary to help your body grow and stay healthy. Your body uses minerals to perform a whole bunch of different tasks, like building strong bones or transmitting nerve impulses. Some of those are even used to make hormones or to maintain your heartbeat at a steady pace. There are two main types of minerals that we're going to talk about today. The first is macrominerals, and that just means large in Greek. So your body needs larger amounts of macronutrients than it does the second category, which is trace minerals. A trace of something just means that there's only a tiny bit of it. So when you're watching CSI and they say trace evidence, that's what they're talking about. So even though your body does need trace elements, it just needs that tiny bit of it. So with trace elements, that includes iron, manganese, copper, iodine, zinc, cobalt, fluoride, and selenium. With your macro minerals, the ones you need a lot of, those are like calcium, phosphorus, sodium, potassium, chloride, magnesium, sulfur, those types of minerals. So we're going to take a more in-depth look at what each of these are. So first up is calcium. This is the one that I feel that we do talk the most about. We spoke about it at length in our previous podcast on calcium in your bones. And calcium is the number one macro mineral when it comes to building bones. This mineral helps you to build strong bones and to make sure you're able to have your skeleton bear the weight of the rest of your body. It helps make sure that your skeleton is as strong as it can be and that you have good, healthy teeth and you're able to go about life with strong teeth and bones. So which foods are really high in calcium? That's going to be, of course, dairy products. That's the go-to one that we think of. So milk, cheese, yogurt, and yes, even some ice cream, some heavy whipping cream if you're making homemade whipped cream, which is delicious. I highly recommend it. And you can also get calcium from salmon that has been canned and sardines that have bones. So you want to make sure that they're the sardines that stuff with little bones in them. Leafy green vegetables like broccoli also have calcium, as do certain types of calcium-fortified foods. So remember, fortified means that it's not naturally present in that product or not present naturally in that high of amounts. So that can be orange juice or cereals, crackers, things like that may say calcium fortified on the back. So check that label. You also really need iron in your body. Iron, I think, is one of the, it's probably, it and potassium are probably like tied for number 2 in the most frequently discussed minerals, with calcium, of course, being number 1. So with iron, your body really needs it in order to transport oxygen from your lungs to the rest of your body. Because your whole body needs oxygen to maintain its health and vitality. You literally need it to stay alive. And we see that right now with what's going on with the coronavirus. So right now, whenever you get it, your lungs essentially end up filling with fluid, and you're unable to use your full lung functionality to do your gas exchange with the alveoli, these little sacs essentially at the end of the bronchioles in your lungs. And so that's what is changing out oxygen and carbon dioxide in your body, and it is sending the oxygen to the rest of your body where it needs it. So that's why people have to get their kidneys removed sometimes following these respiratory illnesses, or their livers and several other types of organs. It just depends on the amount of oxygen that their blood and combination with their lungs are able to carry to the rest of the body. So iron in particular is really important for creating hemoglobin. That is the part of your red blood cells that is carrying that oxygen to the rest of the body. So which foods can you eat that are really rich in iron? Well, we already mentioned red meat, like beef. Other types of meat that are not red may also have it, but red meat especially has a lot of iron in it. Tuna, salmon, and eggs, beans, types of legumes, baked potatoes with the skins, so you do need to eat the skins for it. If you're not a big fan of eating the baked potato with the skins, I recommend making twice baked potatoes. So you'll bake it, scoop the part out on the inside of it, and then turn that essentially into like mashed potatoes. Pipe that, or just pop it in there like you're using a spoon and it's deviled eggs straight back into the potato skin. Go ahead and put a bunch of cheese and bacon and stuff on the top of it, and then bake it again. These are best if you put them in the fridge overnight, in my opinion, and then do it again the next day. Do the second baking the next day. But I really recommend it, and it makes those skins really delicious, and you will not mind, at least in my opinion, eating it. I would much rather eat twice baked potatoes or potato skins like that rather than eat the skin of a baked potato, if that makes sense. I don't know why it is. I just really like the texture of twice baked potatoes, I suppose. But that's a really good way for you to eat that if you are not generally into it, or go ahead and turn it to mashed potatoes and just leave the skins on. Remember, you can use different types of potatoes. A lot of folks use the red skin potatoes if they're going to leave the skins on. So you can try those as well if you're just used to the brown potatoes or the golds. Potatoes are one of my favorite foods though. So again, I mean, they are a carb. We're not trying to make them the number one part of the meal, but maybe when you do eat potatoes, try to get it with the skin in it. That's all I'm saying. It's a delicious food that we don't want to miss out on, and it can give us a ton of iron for our bodies. You can also get iron from dried fruit like raisins. So I don't know if that goes for all dried fruit, but definitely check dried fruits if you're into different types and see if that type is going to give you iron. Leafy green vegetables like broccoli also have iron. So right now in the Venn diagram of the minerals calcium and iron, we definitely have salmon, and we have leafy green vegetables such as broccoli right there in the mandorla. Also, you can get iron from whole and enriched grains like wheat or oats. So that's a different way you can get it. You could also even put some of those baked potato skins on a plate or as twice baked potatoes, and then put something from the calcium group on it as well. So you could put some type of cheese on that or some sour cream. That's what I like to put on mine. I also like to put some red meat in there too. So they serve a really good brisket baked potato at one of the restaurants here in San Antonio. And it's my absolute favorite. I always get extra cheese and extra butter because it's a treat. I can have it sometimes as a treat. And it's so good. But those potatoes are absolutely huge, and they'll last me actually several meals because they are like they're bigger than my head. They're the biggest potatoes I've ever seen up close in my life that I know are not green screen potatoes. But they are absolutely amazing. So consider adding something like barbecue or just regular brisket on top of your potato. They also do like a mac and cheese potato. They do one that is like a chicken enchilada or something like that. And just so many different types. There's one that's like chicken and broccoli and cheese. Try stuffing potatoes with all kinds of stuff, you guys, that are on these lists of essential minerals for your body. You might really just end up Iron Chefing something. All right, we're going to go on a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about some more minerals that your body needs. Stay tuned.
Are you looking to learn more about the latest trends from the fitness world? Are you confused by all of the different trends that are out there? The GSMC Fitness Podcast is the place for you. The GSMC Fitness Podcast is the place to come for people of all skill and interest levels. Join us as we explore the latest trends in the fitness world. Does that new exercise really work? Should I try yoga? Whatever your question, chances are good you'll find an answer on the GSMC Fitness Podcast.
Welcome back. Before the break, we were discussing iron and calcium and how to combine different types of food that are on these lists in order to get both of these minerals into your diet. Now we're going to talk about potassium. So anyone who has ended up having leg cramps has probably been told, you need to eat more potassium. Go eat you a banana, something like that. And they would be right. There is indeed potassium in bananas. Bananas are rich with the stuff, and potassium keeps your muscles and nervous system working properly. So you can also get it from tomatoes, potatoes, and sweet potatoes with the skins. Either way, you gotta eat those skins, you guys. I know that with sweet potatoes, we generally think of them as sweet, and in the U.S., a lot of us mostly eat them as candied yams or something of that nature. But I really love a good savory sweet potato. You can go ahead and cut them up, leaving the skins on, into medallions and cook them on the stove. And then they look really cool with the coloring on them and also still having the skin on. It's just very fun to look at, especially on like a nice solid colored plate. And then we also do a lot of savory mashed sweet potatoes. So I got this from a friend back home. So you take the sweet potatoes and you, of course, wash them, chop them up, and put them in a pot to boil. Once they are pretty good and cooked through, then you go ahead, get them out, drain it, put it in the pot, and then you're going, not the pot, the bowl, and then you're going to put some butter, and I like to put a little sour cream or heavy whipping cream if you don't want any of that sour type taste in there. I find that it doesn't really bother me, but I do prefer the sour cream with regular potatoes rather than sweet potatoes. So in that manner, you can do one or the other, and then it's going to help make them really rich and creamy. But other than that, I put butter in it for the most part and just enjoy these really savory sweet potatoes. And I use salted butter as well, so there's a little bit of a salted flavor to it. I love eating them that way, especially with some like chicken breast. that's been marinated in Italian dressing or something like that. And it is absolutely delicious when you eat those together, because the Italian dressing is actually a little bit sweet in a way, and you have those sweet potatoes that are really savory. So it kind of inverts it, and it is very complimentary. I highly recommend it. It's one of my favorite dinners to make. We serve it with like a small side of quinoa or rice or something, and go from there. Get you some green vegetables as a salad beforehand. But there's a lot of different ways that you can make those, even if you normally don't like the skins. If they're in medallion form, or if they're in those sweet potatoes that have been mashed, you're not going to notice it as much. So if you're not keen on just eating the skins of it when they're baked, like I'm definitely not, you might like these other types, because I do, even though I don't like to eat the skins of baked potatoes. Specifically baked ones. Boiled is fine. When it comes to green vegetables, you can also get potassium from spinach and broccoli. You can get it from citrus fruits too, like oranges, and low-fat milk and yogurt. You can also get it from legumes like beans, split peas, and lentils. So the good news about that is that beans is also on the list of foods that are rich in iron, and orange juice is also on the list of things that can give you calcium. So since that's naturally in oranges, if you're getting a natural orange juice, it should have potassium in it on the back. But remember, anytime we can, we do want to prefer to have whole fruits over juices at any given point, because those whole fruits have the fiber to help us slow down digestion and process the fructose that is naturally there in fruit juice and whole fruits. But the orange juice is not going to have that. No matter how much pulp is in there, you are not going to have as much fiber as you need to process the fructose, that fruit sugar that is in whole fruits. So legumes is on the list, so is low-fat milk and yogurt. So milk products is on the calcium list, so we're solid there. We also have some of those potatoes in common in potassium and iron. So a lot of these are going to end up overlapping. The good news about these is these are also a lot of foods we discussed in the vitamin episode. We discussed getting vitamin D and the importance of eating certain dairy products. Remember that dairy products that have been cultured as well may be really good for your immune system. So you may be able to go ahead and knock out like 3 or 5 birds at one stone if we get these all down on a chart of what all is in everyone and what is missing. So when it comes to zinc, you have zinc to help your immune system. That is how we fight off illnesses and infections, and zinc is going to help build that fort. It's also great for growing cells, and it helps you in wound healing, especially, like cuts, that kind of thing. So which foods can you eat that are rich in zinc? That's going to be beef, pork, and dark meat chicken. So those chicken legs, that's my favorite. If I'm going to get fried chicken, I want the legs each time. My mom was kind of a wing person, but you can also eat the thighs. The thighs and the legs are going to be the darker meat, whereas the breasts and the wings is going to be the lighter meat. So if you are wanting to get zinc from it, check that out. Nuts like cashews, almonds, and peanuts can also be a really great source of zinc for your body, as well as legumes like beans, split peas, and lentils. So the legumes are also on the potassium list. They are on the iron list. So you can already knock out a bunch of these all at once. The beef is also on the list for iron. So there's a lot of these that we can cross over. It's okay if when I listed these out, you were like, sardines with bones. That's fine. You don't have to eat those. This is just a list for you to choose from and kind of cross-reference in order to really help you out with your bodies. Because when we don't get enough of these minerals, they can really cause health problems for us. If you have too little calcium, it can lead to weaker bones, and children are especially vulnerable to that. Kids may take some mineral supplements, but most kids don't need them if they're eating a nutritious diet. So we need to be mindful about that for our kids since their skeletons are still growing, and make sure that we all have those healthy minerals and maintain our health. After all, we are the example for the kids, and they're going to be watching what we do, even if we tell them to do something different. In addition to the minerals we already discussed, calcium, iron, potassium, and zinc, you can also get antioxidants in this manner. Those are substances that can prevent or delay certain types of cell damage, and we did a previous episode on that as well. Some examples of that are like lutein, lycopene, selenium, beta-carotene, and vitamins C and E. You can find them in tons of different foods like fruits and vegetables, and you can also take them as dietary supplements. But most research has shown that antioxidants are not generally very helpful in preventing diseases. You can, however, get them in the form of minerals like selenium or in vitamins like C and E, as we discuss more in depth in our vitamin episode. All right, we're going to go on a quick break, and when we come back, we are going to talk some more about different types of minerals in the body.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Antioxidants as a form of minerals. Now we're going to discuss some of the other types of minerals we find in our bodies and in our food. So as far as minerals go in your body, we have electrolytes. So you may think about Gatorade when you hear the term electrolytes, especially if you've seen the movie Idiocracy, where they talk about Gatorade. It has electrolytes. It's what plants crave. So think of it in that way. They're minerals that are in your body fluids. So that includes sodium, potassium, magnesium, and chloride. Those are all minerals. When you get dehydrated, it means your body doesn't have enough fluids and electrolytes. So the way that some of these work is that in your body, you need electrolytes like sodium and potassium to operate what are called sodium-potassium ion exchange pumps. And what that means is that they work in tandem to move sodium ions out of a cell and potassium ions into it. That's really important for how your body works. So what it really means is that there is a form of transportation that is like a little gate on a fence. And the sodium-potassium ion exchange pump works by transporting molecules from a high concentration of a certain type of mineral to an area of lower concentration. So they're just equalizing or balancing out the levels. So it's like this chamber has a ton of people, let's move people into this chamber instead. That's all that it's really doing, but it's really important for your body. So this work of moving the sodium and potassium ions in between this gate or through this gate, more or less, uses a lot of energy.
And your body supplies that in the form of ATP. It's called adenosine triphosphate, and what you really need to know is that your body uses ATP molecules in order to perform certain types of activities, more or less. So in this case, the ATP molecule is used by the pump to act as energy for 3 sodium ions to be transported and 2 potassium ions to be transported the other direction. Now, this may seem like a small thing, but it has helped us discover a lot about the body. The material that is moving this back and forth, that sodium, potassium, and the ATP that we discussed, are combined together to be called sodium potassium adenosine triphosphatase, which is an enzyme. That is what the sodium potassium pump is called. It's an enzyme, though. And so that is found in the membrane of all animal cells, and it can do a ton of different things in your cell's physiology. It's really helped us to understand how ions get in and out of cells, and has also been really important for helping us understand nerve cells, because they require that sodium-potassium pump in order to respond to stimuli and transmit different nerve impulses. I think that's absolutely fascinating, and it's amazing that that comes from just the energy that you get in your body, that ATP and the sodium and the potassium ions that you're getting from your food as well, just working together in order to help you with your nerve impulses and with making sure that you can import glucose and amino acids and other nutrients into your cell by following this sodium gradient. So the sodium-potassium exchange pumps regulate which chamber, essentially, has more sodium and which one has more potassium. So if they keep it at a gradient of having more on one side and less on the other for each of these, then it helps other types of proteins transport these other nutrients that your body needs, like glucose and these amino acids, etc. These are some really important minerals, and I feel like we don't commonly think of them very frequently outside of the context of, ooh, I have a Charlie horse, or my foot's cramped, I should eat a banana. But they're very important to just the normal functioning of your body. It's not enough to just get some Gatorade after a heavy workout and be like, okay, yeah, it has electrolytes in it. This is something we want to get each day. But you really can't just drink Gatorade every day if you're not very active, because then it's no better than soda for you, to be honest. So we want to make sure that we're giving our bodies the best chances possible. And one of the best things that we can do for it in that manner is to make sure that we are getting these electrolytes in our bodies. In addition to electrolytes, we also have iodine. That's a mineral you can find in some foods that your body uses to create thyroid hormones. Those hormones help control your body's metabolism and a host of other functions. In pregnancy and infancy, they're also really important for developing the bones and the brains. So you want to make sure you're getting that too. You may be familiar with iodized salt. I know a lot of us want to use the really pretty salts in all of our food, but keep in mind that the iodized one is going to be really important. You need that iodine in your diet, but there are other ways that you can get it as well. So, for example, iodine can also be found in certain plant foods like cereals and grains, but they're not all interchangeable. The levels of iodine in each of these is going to depend on the soil in which the plants were grown. So in the UK, you can interestingly also get iodine in cow's milk. But you just want to make sure that you're checking the labels on everything to see how much you're getting. And how much do you need? Well, you should be able to get all of it that you need by eating a varied and balanced diet, because adults really only need about 0.14 milligrams of iodine per day. So just be mindful of that and check the foods that you normally eat to see what their levels of everything are. Iodine's there to help keep your thyroid hormones and your cells and your metabolic rate healthy. If you take too much for a long period of time, it can mess with how your thyroid gland works. And that can also lead to a bunch of different symptoms, including weight gain. So try to avoid too high of a dose and just be mindful of what precisely is in your diet. So if you eat this varied and balanced diet, think about where iodine is going to overlap in like a Venn diagram with all of these other minerals we've discussed so far. Think about where you can get both potassium and iodine or calcium and iodine. If you're in the UK, then you can get them both from milk. Otherwise, you may want to look for these other types of foods that you are already enjoying. That's going to really be the key to this for you, is in trying to change your diet or just adjust your diet for your health. It's important to work with the foods that you already enjoy. Instead of just taking another person's diet or a suggested diet, like a fad diet, and going, I'm just going to follow that. Think about the things that you enjoy. If you look at the list of foods that are on there and you're like, ugh, I hate all of these, then maybe don't do that specific diet. Go ahead and look at the foods that you're already eating and check their nutrition. Think about whether there are better ways that you could eat that food and still get the nutritional value that you require. A lot of times, you're going to find that it's going to be very helpful. And if you're already keeping track of macronutrients, you are well on your way to being able to just keep an eye on your micronutrients as well. There are several websites and apps out there to help folks with that too, so you don't even have to make your own spreadsheet unless, like me, that's what you're into. So keep that in mind and find something that works with your personal interests and the things that you enjoy in order to make sure that you're most likely to adhere to that diet and you're likely to keep track of it by using an app if that's what you're into, or bullet journaling instead, perhaps. And that way you can go ahead and compose those meals for yourself. We're going to go on another quick break, and when we come back, we are going to discuss some more of these minerals. Stay tuned.
The GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast takes you on a journey of exploration. We'll discuss tried and true methods alongside the latest trends of how to best live your life to its fullest and happiest. From psychology to meditation, science to self-help books, the GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast will help you to discover what makes you happy and how you can live life being the best you possible. Download the GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Before the break, we were talking about iodine and electrolytes and how these minerals really impact your body. Now we're going to go ahead and talk about magnesium and some more minerals. Magnesium is naturally present in a lot of different foods, and it's a very important mineral to have. With magnesium, you are going to want it for helping your body regulate your muscles and your nerve function, how your blood sugar levels fluctuate, as well as your blood pressure. Your body needs it to make protein, bone, and DNA. So it's a very underrated type of material. Most of the time I hear people say that they're going to take magnesium just to activate the potassium in their bananas and stuff like that so they can process it better in their bodies. But people don't usually tend to talk about taking just straight up magnesium for magnesium's sake. But it might be something you should discuss with your doctor. Overall, magnesium is, I think, pretty cool, and it has several different health benefits. It is the fourth most abundant mineral found in the human body as well. Even if you eat a healthy diet, it can be really hard to get enough magnesium. But it's involved in hundreds of biochemical reactions in your entire body. You can get it from the earth, the sea, plants, animals, and humans. You can find magnesium pretty much everywhere. About 60% of the magnesium in your body is found in your bones. The rest is in your muscles, your soft tissues, and fluids like blood. So every cell in your body contains it, and it needs it to function. One of the main things magnesium does for you is it's a helper molecule, especially in acting like a buddy for enzymes in making sure that these biochemical reactions are performed in your body as needed. There's over 600 reactions in your body that utilize magnesium, and that includes converting food into energy, creating and repairing DNA and RNA, creating new proteins from amino acids, and their helper molecules in these capacities. But it also helps in contracting and relaxing your muscles and helping again regulate those neurotransmitters. Those really important guys in your body who are responsible for sending messages throughout your brain and your nervous system. So you really need that. Your nervous system, your brain is like the bridge of a ship. I'm specifically thinking the Starship Voyager or perhaps Enterprise, but a regular Earth ship is also fine. It's just the bridge area of the ship. It's the command center. It's where all of the decisions and stuff are being made. Everything has to get processed through there. So whether that's how much serotonin you are actually processing or a host of other nerve impulses that you have, you need these specific helper molecules in your body. So magnesium is far more important than I think we generally give it credit for. And unfortunately, studies back me up. And they say that about 50% of people in the US and Europe get less than the recommended daily amount of magnesium. It can also boost your exercise performance. You may need 10 to 20% more magnesium during exercise than during resting, and that amount can really depend on the activity. Magnesium also helps in transporting blood sugar into your muscles and getting rid of lactate, that material that builds up during exercise and can cause fatigue. So magnesium is super helpful for recovery as well. Studies have also shown that if you supplement with it, it can improve your athletic exercise performance as well as for the elderly and people who have chronic diseases. In one particular study, some volleyball players took 250 milligrams of magnesium each day, and they experienced improvements in their jumping and their arm motion techniques. There was another study in which athletes were supplemented with magnesium for 4 weeks and found that they had faster running, cycling, and swim times during a triathlon, as well as reductions in insulin and stress hormone levels. So this is another thing to keep in mind if perhaps you're having insulin resistance issues. If your doctor is telling you that you're pre-diabetic, ask about the dietary needs for that specific type of issue. Of course, generally, if it's something big like diabetes as a diagnosis, then your doctor will hopefully generally tell you that information. But it's also good to go in with questions just in case. It's like a job interview. If they answer some of the questions you prepared, then cool. But if you still have a couple at the end, then go ahead and ask them. And it's really good for you to be partnered with your doctor for these types of conversations and trying to be an active participant in your treatment plan. If you're more comfortable with letting your doctor just go for it, that's also cool too. Everyone is different, but if you would like to be active in that way, then go ahead and take them a list of these vitamins and nutrients and ask if there's a certain different level that you should maybe be trying to get from these each day than folks who are being studied at the baseline that's considered quote unquote normal. But you can get magnesium in a ton of different ways, and your body uses it for everything from fighting depression to also helping you with type 2 diabetes. It can lower your blood pressure and has anti-inflammatory benefits. It can help you prevent migraines. If you're like me and you are on medication for migraines, one of the first things that my doctor said to me was, hey, let's try these minerals first and see if that helps. And I really appreciate her approach in that way. She's really open to considering a really holistic perspective of treatment. Like I say, she's open to considering it, but I like her because that's her approach. Magnesium can also help you with insulin resistance as well as improving PMS symptoms, and it's also safe and widely available. Make sure you get the recommended daily intake though. That's about 400 to 420 milligrams per day for men and 310 to 320 milligrams per day for women. Keep in mind when I say these things that they are coming from data of what has been averaged into the average person. And if you have any other types of medical issues or any extenuating circumstances, you may want to discuss that with a doctor as well. You can also get magnesium from pumpkin seeds, spinach, Swiss chard, so those big leafy greens, dark chocolate, so there's the good news. Also black beans, quinoa, certain fish like halibut, almonds, cashews, mackerel, salmon, avocado. So a lot of these overlap with the other minerals we've already seen before. Again, always check with your doctor, especially if you're going to consider taking supplements, so you can see when you should take them in comparison with your other medicine if there are any conflicts. All right, we're going to go on another break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about some more minerals. Stay tuned.
Are you tired of the same old news? Are you sick of the seemingly endless political spin and negativity? The GSMC America Still Beautiful podcast is a weekly news podcast covering all the top positive and uplifting news stories. We cover stories that will inspire, uplift, and remind you of the good in the world. Tune into the Golden State Media Concepts America Still Beautiful podcast to get all the great and positive news stories of today. Download the GSMC America Still Beautiful podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Welcome back. Before the break, we were discussing magnesium and specifically what it does for your body. Now we're going to talk about a couple of other minerals like phosphorus. So phosphorus is really important for keeping your bones healthy. It also keeps your blood vessels and muscles working properly, and you can find it naturally in foods that are rich in protein. So like meat and poultry, fish, nuts, beans, legumes, dairy products. So in that way, it crosses over a lot with other minerals like iron and calcium. It's also frequently added to a lot of processed foods. You can additionally get selenium from your food. So selenium is a mineral that helps your body stay healthy, especially your reproductive system, thyroid function, and the production of DNA. It really helps protect your body from damage caused by free radicals. So check out our episode on antioxidants if you're interested in learning more about that. And also infections. So right now, selenium is a really good one to help with your immune system. Selenium is also present in many foods and is sometimes added to other foods. You can get it as a dietary supplement. But remember, if we can get it from food, let's try. So let's see which foods have selenium in them. So for selenium, you can eat Brazil nuts. You can also have fish. However, if you are eating Brazil nuts, you want to make sure you only eat a serving of it a few times a week because it's so high in selenium that it can give you selenium toxicity. It's one of the top sources of it. It may, in fact, be number one overall. Just 1 ounce of it, or about 6 to 8 Brazil nuts, has about 544 micrograms of selenium. For comparison, the recommended daily amount for adults is only 55 micrograms of selenium. So a single serving of 6 to 8 nuts has 544 micrograms. So just be mindful of that so you don't get selenium toxicity. Just like you can get vitamin toxicity, you can also get toxicity associated with too much certain types of minerals. For the fish, yellowfin tuna is going to be one of the top sources of it, but you can also eat sardines, oysters, clams, halibut, shrimp, salmon, crab. Each of those contain amounts that are right around the recommended daily intake for selenium. Ham is going to be a good one as well. It gives you about 42 micrograms of selenium per 3-ounce serving, and that's about 60% of the recommended daily intake for adults. I know a lot of folks don't eat ham because it has a high salt content, but just keep that in mind, especially if you cure your own ham at home. For enriched foods like pastas, whole wheats, and whole grain cereals, a ton of those are enriched or fortified with selenium and other minerals. So if you are buying food that says it's enriched in any way or fortified, check the label and see specifically how much of these minerals are in there. Typically, you can get up to about 40 micrograms per 1 cup serving of noodles or cereal, or 16 micrograms from 2 slices of whole grain toast. So keep that in mind and just try to balance your diet and make it varied with some good whole plant-based foods to get the best nutrition out of it, rather than just having enriched food. But if enriched food is what you have available to you for whatever reason, then it's going to be better than the alternative. So pork in particular has 33 micrograms of selenium per 3 ounces. Beef has about 33 micrograms if it's like a bottom round beef steak. Beef liver is going to give you 28 micrograms, so if you are into organ meats, try that out. And ground beef only has about 18 micrograms per serving. Turkey also has quite a bit of it, so does chicken, cottage cheese, and eggs. So we're seeing a pattern here again with those red meats, or meats in general, but also with dairy and with other animal products like eggs. Brown rice has it. Sunflower seeds, baked beans, mushrooms, oatmeal, spinach, lentils, milk and yogurt, cashews, and bananas. So bananas only has 2 micrograms of selenium per cup of chopped bananas. That's only about 3% of your recommended intake. So that's not a lot, but most fruits only offer minimal traces of this particular mineral or none at all. So toss some bananas in a smoothie or toss it into your oatmeal and have those whole oats with these bananas and get that recommended daily intake. Selenium functions as a trace mineral antioxidant, and you can get it in a ton of different food. You also need things like copper. I know it's a metal, but yep, you have it in small bits of your body. It's important for a lot of enzymes. It's also needed for metabolizing iron. You can again get that from legumes, nuts, seeds, whole grains, organ meats, and drinking water. So drink your water. You can also generally get fluoride from drinking water, either fluoridated or naturally containing fluoride. You can also get fish and most teas, fluoride are in that. So if you want to see how much fluoride's in your drinking water and you live in the city, you can actually call into the city and ask. In our water episode, we talked about how there are several different types of regulating bodies for fluoride, and each of, I think about 3, tend to have different rules for it. So go ahead and call and ask if you'd like to know. They're required to let you know. Check it out, and also check out the episode on water, because fluoride, as they found, is important for your teeth. You also need chromium, because that helps insulin in regulating your blood sugar levels, and you can get that in liver, unrefined foods, brewer's yeast, whole grains, nuts, and cheeses. They had me at cheeses for chromium. And molybdenum, that's a part of some enzymes, and it is found in legumes, breads, and grains, leafy greens, leafy green vegetables, milk, and liver. We're going to go on another quick break, and when we come back, we are going to discuss chloride and sulfur. Stay tuned.
GSMC Beauty Tips Podcast gives you advice on everything from hair to fashion to skincare products. We'll talk about the latest trends in makeup, hairstyles, and anti-aging remedies. And we'll cover all of the newest fashion trends. If you have an interest in or questions about the beauty trends that might work best for you, the Golden State Media Concepts Beauty Tips Podcast has got you covered. Download the GSMC Beauty Tips Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Welcome back. Before the break, we were discussing some of the different minerals found in your foods and that your body needs, like copper and fluoride, chromium, and molybdenum. We are also now going to discuss some chloride. Chloride is really important in your body for maintaining a proper fluid balance and for your stomach acid. Remember, your stomach acid is made of hydrochloric acid, potassium chloride, and sodium chloride. So we have another place where all of these minerals are working together. With chloride, it's really found in table salt. So table salt is sodium chloride. That's just the chemical name for salt. So when you're getting salt in general, you're getting sodium and chloride. Sodium chloride in particular is important as a compound in your body for treating or preventing sodium loss that is caused by dehydration, sweating excessively, or other causes. So chloride is very important for you. And I think we tend to also think of it usually in accompaniment with sodium, if we think of it at all. In addition to table salt, surprise, it's also in soy sauce. It's very salty, so it makes sense. You are also going to have a lot of it in processed foods and a little bit of it in milk, meats, breads, and some types of vegetables. For sulfur, that is found in protein molecules in your body. And in your food, you can get it as parts of protein. So meats, poultry, fish, eggs, milk, legumes, nuts. Literally just you go and find protein, and it is typically going to have sulfur in it. Check that out and make sure you are getting that for your body because it's important for protein molecule functioning. In addition to those, we also have manganese. That is a part of many different enzymes, and it's in a ton of different foods, especially in plant foods. If you have a manganese deficiency, then you could get some poor bone growth or defects in your skeleton, slow or impaired growth, low fertility, impaired glucose tolerance. So it's going to be like pre-diabetes. It's somewhere between having a normal glucose maintenance and diabetes, but it's not quite in either realm. So if your doctor's telling you that you have pre-diabetes, talk to them about manganese as well. Manganese deficiency can also result in abnormal metabolism of carbs and fats. So it's important to keep an eye on how much manganese you're getting. Your body tends to store about 20 milligrams of manganese in your kidneys, your liver, your pancreas, and your bones, but you also need to get it from your diet. It's an essential nutrient, and it can really be found in seeds and whole grains as well. There are a ton of different benefits that you can get from manganese, and it's really important for just maintaining the normal function of your brain and your nervous system, as well as a lot of your body's enzymes. So for manganese, it can really help you out by improving your bone health when combined with other nutrients. So it can't do it on its own, but when you combine it with calcium, zinc, and copper, some of the other minerals we discussed earlier, then it really supports your bone mineral density. That's especially important in older adults. Some studies have shown that approximately 50% of postmenopausal women and 25% of men who are 50 or older will suffer from an osteoporosis-related bone break. Additional research suggests that if you take manganese with calcium, zinc, and copper, it can help reduce spinal bone loss in older women. So that's the good news. Even though as we get older, we are more prone to osteoporosis-related bone breaks, we can also help reduce them via our diet and our nutrition. An additional study followed a bunch of women in the study for 1 year and established at the beginning of the study that they did indeed have weak bones, and they found that if they supplemented with those nutrients, including vitamin D, magnesium, and boron, it could improve their bone mass. So this is one way that vitamins and minerals work hand in hand. You need both the vitamin D and the magnesium to work in improving your bone mass. However, some other studies suggest that supplements that have only calcium and vitamin D can also have similar effects. So some studies are refuting that manganese is really helpful in bone health, and it's still being researched since it is hotly debated. Granted, it's going to take some time to do that because these folks looked at these women's bone health for a year for this initial study, so it may be a little bit before those results all come out. But hopefully, we have several groups of scientists working on similar projects simultaneously. But regardless of whether manganese is helpful in this situation, they did find that the mineral calcium and the vitamin D working together do have similar effects. Manganese can also really help you because it is part of the antioxidant enzyme superoxide dismutase. We're going to abbreviate that to SOD right now, SOD. And it is one of the most important antioxidants in your body. Specifically, SOD helps you combat the negative effects of free radicals by converting superoxide, which is one of the most dangerous free radicals, into some smaller molecules that won't damage your cells. So the enzyme is called superoxide dismutase, and remember, things that tend to end in ACE, are going to be enzymes when we talk about them. So the antioxidant enzyme, superoxide dismutase, or SOD, fights the free radical superoxide. So superoxide dismutase enzyme, and then superoxide is that free radical. So it's just essentially telling you that it is an enzyme that is working in breaking down superoxide, more or less, eliminating it as a threat by converting it into smaller molecules. I think science can be pretty metal and rad sometimes. All right, we're going to go on another break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the precious metals that are actually present in your body. Stay tuned.
Are you looking to learn more about the latest trends from the fitness world? Are you confused by all of the different trends that are out there? The GSMC Fitness Podcast is the place for you. The GSMC Fitness Podcast is the place to come for people of all skill and interest levels. Join us as we explore the latest trends in the fitness world. Does that new exercise really work? Should I try yoga? Whatever your question, chances are good you'll find an answer on the GSMC Fitness Podcast.
Manganese, what it does, and where you can find it. So now we're going to talk about precious metals that are in your body. So you actually can find elements like gold in your body. And it's really interesting how they can play hundreds of functions in your body in helping you to maintain your health. Sometimes you just need a really small amount, like those trace minerals, but having too much or too little can upset that delicate balance in your body. We already talked about the macro minerals, so the ones that are needed in large amounts, and as well as the trace elements, the ones that you need only a little bit of. They're both really vital to our health. It's just the amounts that we need are different. Just like how you can't make these types of leavened bread without having yeast or having flour even though you need way more flour than you need yeast for these breads. They're both really important if you want it to turn out as a good looking piece of bread the way that it was meant to look and taste. So for people, I just mean that for your body to have the proper structure and function, much like this bread, if you want it to work properly, we need to make sure that we get these things into our bodies and not just dismiss them because it says we only need a little. They're still very vital to the ingredients that make up our body's normal blueprint for functioning. So in regards to gold, in 1998, they found that the average person's body that weighed about 70 kilograms would have a total mass of 0.2 milligrams of gold. If you purified that gold, that volume would be about 10 nanoliters. And if you refined it and formed it into a solid cube of purified gold, then each side of the cube would measure 0.22 millimeters. So in comparison to that, your body has about 43 kilograms of oxygen, and that's the most abundant element in the earth, in addition to being the most abundant element in the human body. And that makes sense because large portions of our body and the earth are made up of water, H2O. Additionally, you have about 16 kilograms of carbon in your body and 7 kilograms of hydrogen. So the role of gold in the processes of your body's normal functioning was unknown for a really long time, but they've recently found that gold can play a really important role in health and maintenance of your joints. It can also be really important in transmitting electrical signals in your body, and your body additionally has about 1.0 grams of silicon. That element is commonly found in the presence of gold in nature, and we still are not sure entirely about what that exactly is. But for context, you would only have about 0.2 milligrams of gold, and the human body tends to have 43 kilograms of oxygen. So that's really not a ton of gold, but it's still an interesting fact, I think, to know. Break it out at parties, give it a whirl. Well, not right now. Break it out over Messenger right now. But spread the knowledge. It's fun to know. Kids especially, they'll love it. They love random facts. My godson's always telling me random facts. And I love when the munchkins do that. A lot of them I might already know, but sometimes they teach me something cool and new that they learned in school or in reading their books. So share the information. People love learning new stuff. When you are trying to get all these foods in your body, remember we talked about trace and the macro types. But keep in mind that some of these are easier to get and continue eating. So if you're eating a really healthy diet that has a variety of vegetables and you like to eat a bunch of different beans as well. So in our house, we like to do a lot of different legumes like lentils and black-eyed peas. And we'll also have peas and green beans and, oh goodness, kidney beans and great northern beans, white navy beans. We put a lot of different beans into our chilies and everything else like that in this house. And we also just like cooking down legumes with a little bit of meat and eating that over a carb with like a salad on the side or something. So that's really easy to get a lot of minerals in ways like that if you like the variety. If you like a variety of fruits, that's really helpful too, as well as whole grains. Whole grains is the one that I have to fight myself on because I did grow up with white bread. I mostly eat honey wheat. And most of the flour at my house is still that all-purpose enriched white flour. And I need to start moving more towards more of the wheat flours, especially if I'm going to continue baking my own food at the house as well. We made naan this week, and made some naan pizzas and everything out of some leftovers. It was exceptional. Go ahead and play Chopped at home, you guys. It's a lot of fun. We even did the BA test kitchen thing today where we took 4 of the lumps of dough I made of the naan and rolled them out and made calzones and flatbread pizzas with them. And we tried 4 different types. We baked these little tiny things one at a time just to see how they turned out and to learn from our mistakes because we weren't going anywhere, right? And now we have this really great food that we were very excited about making, and we loved having it for dinner. We made all 4 of those pizzas and ate 3 of them together, the pizzas / calzones. And now we'll be able to make little tiny ones for parties or when friends come over. We love having pizza making parties. But this naan bread makes it so much quicker to make the dough as well as so much easier, and it's also just quicker to cook too. So I found it to be a lot of fun. I highly recommend it. You can get an easy naan recipe online as well in AAN if you're unfamiliar, and it's really great for all kinds of stuff. I'm going to make some homemade hummus later this week with some cucumbers on the side as well. Make a little cucumber salad and call that a day. But it would be better in general for me if I made like roti instead, if I made a bread with these whole wheats. But I digress. There are several different ways that you can do these things, and tomorrow we're going to work on our vegetable variety by also making a cauliflower head in the oven. I'm going to roast it with a little bit of olive oil, some salt and pepper on it, and then we're going to eat it with a whipped goat cheese. So there are the dairy products, again, that are going to help us get a variety in our diet so we are still getting the nutrients and not getting sick of trying to eat things that we don't like. And we're also going to have little pizzas and some of the whipped goat cheese, which is delicious. I'll eat cheese in any form. You guys know I'm not a big fan of dairy, but with cheese, I'm here for it. And with this whipped goat cheese, it's pretty much just goat cheese and a little bit of heavy whipping cream. Just whip that together with, I use a mixer for that instead of trying to do that manually because the cheese is so stiff. And it is fantastic to spread on that cauliflower. Think like a fancier version of broccoli and cheese. I'm not really a huge fan of cauliflower, but I will eat it this way. So if you need to put a little bit of cheese on it, doing a good cheese for you, like a goat cheese, is going to be helpful. You can get a lot of those vitamins and minerals from it, and it's a lot better for you than like the processed American cheese that we tend to associate with broccoli and cheese. So for the most part, you can get these minerals from a variety of vegetables and just having a good, varied diet, including those unsaturated fats like olive oil that we've discussed before and how important they are. But some others are harder to find in the right amounts. A lot of adults are deficient in calcium, especially older adults and women and folks who don't eat a lot of dairy products. I'm looking at me. I have to up my dairy intake intentionally in order to get the right amounts. Sometimes that just means those caramel macchiatos, because those are like half the glass is milk, perhaps even more. I like just a little bit of coffee with my milk and sugar. So in that aspect, that helps me out a lot. And sometimes I'll have like 4 or 5 Oreos in a glass of milk. I like to eat them like cereal and then drink the milk. I do it with a spoon, in fact. So that's one way that I do that for me, or making sure I'm getting cheese and stuff in my diet too. Iron is also really difficult to obtain in the right amounts, especially in women. We do pass that in our menstrual blood, and our bodies can become deficient in iron in that regard. So a lot of other folks, especially folks who are obese and are premenopausal women, have a higher risk for iron deficiency, partly because severe obesity is associated with lower levels of inflammation, and that in turn reduces your iron absorption and how your body is using it. We want to make sure that we are paying special attention to these, like calcium and iron, magnesium, and potassium. Having a low amount of magnesium can also be found in folks who have diseases that cause diarrhea. So if you're having some GI symptoms and intestinal distress, think about what you've been eating over the past few days. I encourage you guys to keep food journals regarding your health and wellness, but as I've said before, if keeping track of the food that you're eating, or specifically your macro and micronutrients and your calories, if that's something that you find to be triggering for any type of mental health disorder, please don't take that route. You do what is best for you. Remember, we are all different, but one of the things that I like to do is just write down the foods that I ate, even if I don't immediately go ahead and fill in the other types of numbers. Just writing down the food can make me feel a lot better. Not even the quantity, just the food. And in that way, you just keep an eye on what you ate, not necessarily how much you ate. But talk to your doctor or your therapist and find what works best for you. It does help, though, in my experience, and the reason I recommend it is if I start feeling icky after a few days, I'll go, okay, how many days has it been since I've had a salad? What are the vegetables that I've eaten over the past few days? And if I can just look back at that, then I'm like, okay, I don't have enough fiber in my diet and I'm feeling kind of down. Maybe I need to go and eat some more fiber so that my body can process my fructose as well, and also so that the fiber in my gut can work as that second brain of my body and produce things that I need, like serotonin. For potassium, a lot of older adults only have about half to 3/4 of the potassium that they need. A low potassium, high sodium diet is also thought to contribute to high blood pressure. So keep an eye on that. Those are the main 4 that we need to be the most attentive to: calcium, iron, magnesium, and potassium. So to recap, for those 4, go ahead and eat yogurts, cheeses, milks, kale, broccoli, fortified juices, leafy green vegetables, salmon, sardines, red meat, cooked soybeans, pumpkin seeds, cooked lentils, ground turkey, fortified breads and breakfast cereals, almonds, halibut, other types of nuts, beans, and seeds, as well as whole wheat bread and raisins, and potatoes with the skin on, whether those be regular baked potatoes like the Idaho Gold, or if they are sweet potatoes. You go ahead and take that list of food that I just gave you and go online and see what works best for you. Talk to your doctor. You also want to make sure that any type of medication you're on, you are discussing this with the doctor. And I'm saying it again because certain drugs like diuretics that are prescribed to treat blood pressure can cause you to excrete magnesium in your urine. And so you're not able to use enough of the magnesium, even if you are getting a solid intake of it, if you are essentially peeing it out before your body can truly utilize it, because your blood pressure medication is upping how frequently you pee. So keep that in mind. You want to have enough, and also make sure that there's no other types of confounding variables that can mitigate the good that you're trying to do for your body. Thank you for listening to the GSMC Health and Wellness Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I would like to ask that you please remember to subscribe to the show, and writing a nice review always really helps us. Also, if you could please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, I'd appreciate it. Thank you kindly, and have a good night.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Health and Wellness Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.